So today we're going to go ahead and talk about the Vanguard Beta. I've had about 5 hours to play it, about 2.5 hours last week, and about 2.5 hours live on stream, and that's the gameplay you're seeing right here. So I appreciate, Sledgehammer Games for allowing me to be a part of that with Activision so I could try it early against other content creators. So it's not going to necessarily play exactly the way it is once the full beta comes out. But we'll still ahead and go through some of the pros, the cons, the positive, negative of the game, because that's the whole point of these types of things, and identify whether or not I think this is going to be a good Call of Duty, because that's really all that matters. And then how that integrates into Warzone at the end of the day, I think are the two biggest things people care about. So if you enjoy the video, learn something new, do me a favor, hit the like button. If you're brand new, want to find your way back, double check, make sure you are subscribed with notifications on. When it comes to the positive, just as an overview quick, I enjoyed the game. I enjoyed when I played it. I felt like it played a lot more like a traditional Call of Duty, but it had the Modern Warfare engine, so the movement didn't feel foreign. It felt like, what we're used to in Modern Warfare and Warzone. A lot of those mechanics come back. They're using that engine but upgraded, so graphically it looks just as good. I know when the alpha came out, the graphics kind of look bad because it's on a stock PS4. It's very hard to compare to 1440p that we got going on in the background. So when it comes to the actual gameplay, we didn't really get a full use of matchmaking because we're pairing up against other content creators. So is there going to be skill-based matchmaking in the game? More than likely, because it makes Activision a ton of money because it keeps casuals on the game. But we didn't get to experience any of those elements. Lag comp, and it's like they're separating people, like, so only like 50 people are playing versus thousands and hundreds of thousands when the beta is going and the full release. So a lot of those networking type things we won't really know until the game launches to find out netcode, and it's just too soon to identify those things. So the things that I did like is that they've already improved some of the things that we gave feedback on in the alpha. The visibility was much better. You're able to see the character models that were less hidden. When you got shot at, the hit markers, it didn't like black out your entire screen. It kind of just dimmed it like you're used to in Call of Duty, where it gets a little bit red, but you still have relatively good visibility. I don't know if that has to do with maybe they changed some workings with the muzzle flash or whatever, but the visibility is just better from the alpha. So those things, I hope they continue to improve those and tweak them based off the way they work. Next up was more the map design. I think the visibility in the maps was pretty easy to see, especially after they made these tweaks. I felt like some of the visibility was kind of hard where people can hide and blend in. It was relatively easy to identify where players were, predict spawns. Spawns were significantly better than we've had in Modern Warfare, where the spawns were just all bad. These ones, it was like, okay, I have an idea. All right, our team's here. Generally, those are where the enemy should be. Very predictable. But, obviously it had their occasional bad spawns where you're on one side of the map, you're able to a little bit easier spawn trap or whatever, just because there's some fluky spawns, but it is what it is. The footsteps. This is probably one of the most important parts of the gameplay element. I think Modern Warfare was probably the worst COD to ever do it when it comes to footsteps. They're just way too loud, so you could hear somebody 100 meters away. You know exactly where they're coming. You just stop, pre-aim, and it's relatively easy to get that kill. When it comes to this, the footsteps are very low. They're quiet. It almost sounds, they're about as quiet as it can get without them being silent, which is pretty nice. And I don't know if the dynamic's going to be tweaked at all. I feel like they're in a good spot because personally, I like moving my way around the map and getting a nice little flank where you come up, maybe you get an execution in the mix or whatever. That's cool. The actual just going around and pre-aiming a doorway, not so cool. The destructible environments, doors, didn't feel like overly complicating the gameplay. For the most part, there's I think there's only one map that I've seen with doors, and then the other one has just a bunch of destructible stuff. So I think they found a good place in terms of pacing of the game, and they've even expanded on this further. And this is one of my favorite parts about the matchmaking aspect that we could test. Is there was 3 different types of matchmaking. Basically tactical, which is slower, and then blitz, which is like the fastest, packing as many players into one map as possible. And you're able to play like 20v20, 24v20, depending on the map and the mode, and you're able to get that COD feel where it feels like a ground war on a smaller map. So it's a little bit more fast paced. You can go on streaks really quickly. You end up on a 10 instantly, and then maybe you die and you can have a couple death streaks or whatever. But you have that pacing that feels like you could go on a streak at any moment. Those are majority of the things that I really liked. And I was able to breeze through those fairly easy because, it's kind of straightforward. the game feels good, looks good, all that type of stuff. TTK is right around where it should be. It's fast enough, a little bit slower than MW, and not as slow as Cold War. So you can definitely get some feeds and maybe get one shot and still be able to pull off a kill. A little bit less likely, but it's just kind of how it goes depending on how you're going to outplay somebody. Now let's go ahead and talk about the negatives, because the negatives are where, like, I think there's stuff that they could fix and stuff that's just like annoying that probably will not change. One of the biggest things for me is the Modern Warfare minimap. That's one of the biggest things, where you have to now use a perk to essentially get the old Call of Duty map. At least they kind of met us in the middle, because that was one of the biggest problems with Modern Warfare, was the ability to not show up on the minimap if you're firing an unsuppressed weapon. Now you got to use subsonic rounds. I'm not sure exactly how this works with suppressor. Obviously you need more testing and, you know, trial and error in a controlled setting. But overall, I think that having a perk, at least they're meeting us in the middle. Not like going back to traditional Call of Duty, more of like this hybrid where they're keeping casuals so they can't get, I guess casuals don't look at the minimap. I don't know how that works. I know we talked a little bit about footsteps being a little bit low, which was a good thing, but I think the overall audio of the game sounds a little bit more muted, especially when I was playing on stream. People were like, is that how the game sounds? It sounds a little bit more like muffly, where it doesn't have quite the sound that Modern Warfare had, because one of the best things about Modern Warfare was the graphics and the sound. The rest of the stuff is kind of chalk, but overall those things were executed pretty well. So I'm really surprised they are missing the mark as much as they are with this aspect, because it just doesn't feel that thumpy noise you get with the audio, which hopefully they'll go ahead and tweak that over time. The next thing I'll talk about is the overall streak system. I don't really care if they use score streaks or kill streaks. In this particular case, they're using kill streaks like Modern Warfare. Maybe there'll be a point man perk eventually that comes around that they add in the ability to get score for your streaks, and maybe you don't have to sacrifice your mini-map to have that with the perk 2 or whatever. But the biggest problem for me is that you are not able to cycle and repeat your streaks. So if you have a 3-kill streak, a 4-kill streak, and a 5-kill streak, you get your 3-kill streak, you get your 4-kill streak, you get your 5-kill streak, you get all your streaks, you use them. If you get 5 more kills, you never get another streak for the rest of the time you live. You get 5 more kills after that, 10 more kills, 20 kills. You will never get another streak until you die, and then that resets your streak back to 0. And for me, that is a huge problem, because one of those driving forces within Call of Duty for me has always been trying to improve, to try and get the bigger, the better streaks, to be able to lap streaks, to go for that nuke. But when you put in a scenario where maybe you're only able to get one UAV or a counter UAV, and then maybe they don't have an advance in the game, we don't know yet, maybe they do have some kind of an advance in the game, then maybe you got that. And then once those streaks are gone, you're going to have no awareness, and you're going to have to rely on teammates to call in streaks, which drives people to play in parties or just be frustrated with their experience. And then you're forcing people to play with parties, means you're going to run up against parties more often. It just changes the overall balance of the way people play the game when you remove that element. Being able to go on a 30 streak and be able to get maybe 5 UAVs along the way, that's a huge W for me. Who cares about streak spam? Okay, they earned it. Raised up the streaks so they cost more. UAV costs 5, whatever, an advance costs 12 or whatever. Make it high enough where you're not getting it instantly, but if you go on like a 10 streak, you should be able to get 2 UAVs. Personally, I think that is a huge problem, and that takes away a lot of the replay value of the game, because you get to a point where it's like, all right, cool, I'm only rocking a 5 streak. I got my glide bomb, let me blow myself up so I can go on another streak. Let me blow myself up so I can get another streak. That's not really like a logical way to play, but that's the way they kind of force you on it, which is unfortunate. Maybe next year we'll get a perk that allows you to cycle your streaks, right? Like they're kind of doing it that way. So that's annoying to me. Huge annoyance, but we'll kind of see where that goes. And last thing, we'll go ahead and talk about this pick 30 system, or whatever the hell they want to call it, because every weapon, whether it's the primary or secondary, that has attachments, you're able to equip 10 attachments. And there's no special perk you need to run. There's no wild cards from previous Call of Duties. You literally just get 10 attachments. Muzzle, barrel, laser, grip, proficiencies, kitting the weapon, ammo type, magazines. Like you get all 10 attachments for the weapon. And that's cool from like a player perspective to kind of min-max. And obviously after a couple weeks, once we kind of figure out what the meta is, we're going to kind of gravitate towards the same attachment, the same way it did in Modern Warfare. We'll have a better idea. Yeah, you just use these attachments because they're better, at least until they're rebalanced. But the problem is when you have that many attachments, you end up with some very broken combinations, especially the way scaling works with the multiplicative aspect. You don't get what I'm talking about. Is basically you equip this attachment and this attachment, and this one helps you a certain amount, this one helps you a certain amount, but when you put them both on, the number is bigger than both of them combined because there's a multiplication aspect to how they're stacked, and that ends up tweaking things pretty significantly, or you get diminishing returns on stacking certain things. So it can be balanced in another way, but I think it's almost impossible to really know how broken this system is until we get full use of it, which won't be until the full game, because they've already acknowledged that the beta will go to level 30. I maxed out my weapons within the early access beta, and I was able to get to level 30. I couldn't get an extended mag, couldn't use incendiary rounds, couldn't use, I didn't get access to the full repertoire of broken things like hollow point rounds, vital spots, fully loaded. There's a lot of things that are going to be available that fundamentally are going to be broken when they go ahead and combine them all. And I think that makes a very hard balanced game. And that was one of the biggest problems with Modern Warfare. You could run overkill and each gun could have 5 attachments. Imagine overkill with the decked out STG, MP40, or a Thompson or whatever, and they both have 10 attachments. It's like a pick 45 or something crazy, which gets incredibly hard to balance. At least before in previous Call of Duties, if you want an extra attachment, you had to sacrifice a perk. You couldn't have a lethal, you couldn't have a tactical, and they made it all about the gun, and it became about gunplay. They kind of gone away from that, I guess, to make it a little bit more easy to understand for a casual, but I think it also kind of complicates the system a little bit. But we'll see what ends up happening. I mean, that's it. I mean, I enjoyed the game. I think I can see myself playing this a bunch. Probably 6v6, not as much, because that's kind of boring to me, especially considering that the maps are also designed for a blitz version, which allows for higher player counts, like 4 times the players. It just doesn't make sense to ever go back to 66 unless maybe you're playing a little bit more tactical, if you're even playing like S&D or whatever. So hopefully you guys did enjoy the video, learned something new. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button. If you're brand new, want to find your way back, double check, make sure you are subscribed with notifications on. Thank you for watching. As always, have a great day.